book had gone on to become Wall Street Journal bestseller. It has also become, got published in 11 languages so far, and that's a cheap thrill factor for me. And it's being also taught at a number of colleges around the world, including Harvard Business School and so on. What I wanted to firstly mention to you all today is that this is a particularly special session for me. Ever since I came to the US several years back, I always was trying to see how I would keep myself completely up to date and at the cutting edge. And that's where I came across one gentleman called Shelly Palmer. If you don't know Shelly Palmer, you better get to know him. He is, I think, one of the most brilliant, forward-looking, futuristic individuals who understands technology like cold. And not only just technology in an abstract sense of technology, but also the application side of it. And it is not an exaggeration to say, and I'm not saying it because he's on the call, I have told multiple times as well, that my single biggest learning source is always Shelly Palmer, his newsletter, and my conversations with him. And I also have done some courses, which he was so kind enough to offer free to the entire community, not just to me. So it is my absolute pleasure and delight that today I have got Shelly Palmer on call with us here today. And welcome, Shelly. Absolutely. Again, pleasure and delight to have you here. And my conversations with him. And I also have done. Shelly, are you able to hear?
I can hear you, Raja. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome here. And absolutely delight and a pleasure to have you here. And as I was just mentioning, I don't know if you heard that, I said, you're a guru to me. And what you have been actually, teaching me over the years, either directly, face-to-face, or even through your newsletters and through your free courses has been nothing short of fantastic. So thank you very much. And it's a particular pleasure to have you here on my LinkedIn Live show. Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. It's absolutely great to be here, Raja. Right back at you, by the way.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Quantum marketing is amazing. The work you do is incredible. So it's just an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. So, Shelly, to just sort of dive in right away, when I started following about AI, not now, but 6-7 years back, or actually 8-9 years back, you're one of those people who had started talking about it pretty significantly even then, not just in the last 1 year, like a lot of pundits who are talking only with the advent of Gen AI, but you have been in it all through. And AI has been transformative for those folks who have practiced it, but would love to understand from your side, what is the potential of AI? And I'm not just talking about Gen AI, but AI in total, in terms of either cost management or creativity. How does it free up resources for creativity? How does it enhance creativity? What really excites you about AI when you look at this?
So, I mean, it's a loaded question. The macro answer is anything that can be automated will be automated. And so however long that takes, we are living on the exponential, and it feels like things are coming fast and furious, but not so fast. There are real complexities, and there are all kinds of things that have to fall into place before this becomes oh, press a button and my work is done. We are so far away from that, and we are so much farther away than people believe, but not holistically. There are certain things that are going to become very easy to do very quickly, and they're going to be more like parlor tricks than paradigm shifts, but they will slowly shift the paradigm. For example, we don't know what Apple's going to come out with in a couple of weeks at WWDC with respect to Siri and iOS 18. But even no matter what it is, even if it's terrible, it's going to be the first step towards, in your hand is an AI assistant that is way better than any AI assistant you've ever had before. And it's going to change the way you behave. And I've been saying for a lot of years, technology is meaningless unless it changes the way we behave. And so we're about to see consumer behaviors and business behaviors change through any kind of automation that's given to us by big tech. When you talk about productivity and creativity, I'm going to split them up for a second and say creativity is a human attribute at the moment. And I want to just put it on the side because there are very big feelings about what it means to be creative, really big feelings. Productivity is objective. This is the baseline. You became more productive or less productive. It's a completely objective measure. And I think you could argue, Raja, and you and I have had many discussions about this, that productivity is the key driver of economic success. There's a lot of other kinds of success, but if you're talking about pure dollars, this is where you are. You did it better, you're making more money. You did it worse, you're making less money. It's just a driver of economic success. And here, there is the low level table stakes productivity that's coming with Copilot and Gemini and all of the assistants that are being just distributed at $30 a month per seat everywhere. Then there's the competitive advantage that each company will need to forge for itself based on the way that they approach external signals and incorporating and their proprietary data, which are also external signals to the large language models, and how they incorporate them. This is a little deep in the weeds technically, but unless you take your proprietary data and put it in the context of all the external signals that impact your business, that could be, for example, weather data, parking lot density, macro trends like people are spending more time on their cell phones and more time talking to synthetics, micro trends like the current news events, something's happening in the Middle East, something's happening in the White House. Like, unless you can incorporate all of that and let the model cogitate on that in the context of your proprietary needs with your proprietary words, your acronyms, your initialisms, and then use the large language model as a way to aggregate and turn this, transform it into language that we as humans can understand, that is a pretty tall order, and it requires an awful lot of resources, time and energy, subject matter experts. It's like, so if you the question is really, my answer is three parts: productivity from a baseline perspective where everybody gets Copilot. Yeah, everyone's going to get a few percent more effective. And if you're clever enough to innovate your workflow and process at some intensity level and some pace that matches the free products, yeah, you go for it. When it comes to super automation, everything's going to get automated eventually. But when it comes to like what would happen at MasterCard or what would happen at Unilever or what would happen at any big co that's like, to get the most out of these tools is going to require an immense investment and time and resources.
Got it. Now, so if one key consideration you're highlighting clearly is a conscious and a committed investment, both in terms of time and resources, and that probably includes money too, as AI is being incorporated into the operations of any marketer. The question is, are there any shortcuts? Are there any limitations? Like, for example, I'll just give you where I'm coming from. In the context of MasterCard, we tried something what we call as the RFP factory. So we have trained the engine on all the past RFPs. And when we have a new RFP, it generates a draft response like that. Now, that's a huge productivity for us because what used to take 7 weeks is now happening in a matter of minutes and hours, right? Which is amazing. And of course, it still has pitfalls because some of the stuff that you see, you wonder, what is this and where did this come from? And so we have still a level of human supervision and a second running and a third running and things like that. No, so from a marketer, so that's a limitation in spite of the huge productivity. Anything just in terms of what could be the current limitations, but also equally, are there any quick, when you say that there have to be significant levels of investment, that proves a little bit of a daunting thing because marketers are always struggling for the budgets. Their media dollars are under pressure, their production dollars are under pressure. Now you come and say you need to invest a lot of money, otherwise you cannot take off with AI. That is a little daunting. Any shortcuts, any modules they should be thinking of focusing on as opposed to boil the whole ocean?
So there are some shortcuts, but they're not as short as you think. First of all, the way to look at this, AI, generative AI, the AI that's all in the news right now, is not a skills democratizer. it doesn't make everybody better. It's a skills amplifier. It makes people who are great at their jobs much more productive. People who are good at their jobs get more productive, and people who suck at their jobs will still suck, only that will be amplified. You will know immediately that you are terrible because you can only get out of these tools what you bring to it. So you said something really important about your RFP generator, and I think it's exemplary for the entirety of the shortcut world. If you do what's known as few shot programming, or if you take the time in a long context window, which is a window that's a jargony word for a text window that you could just put a ton of data into. So let's say I took my 20 best proposal requests, my RFPs, my 20 best ones ever, and I put it in the context window, and I said in my pre-prompt, hey, large language model, here are 20 awesome RFPs. Here's the new data. Make me a new RFP. Because it knows what RFPs are, because there are literally billions of copies of RFPs on the public web that it has looked at from a pattern perspective, and it's got very clear vector understanding of what an RFP is and what the format is and what the best practices paragraphs are for everything, what the risk paragraph is, what the COVID paragraph is, what the supply chain, like it knows, it's just seen it. And then it's seen yours as the very best examples in the context window. It is guaranteed to put out a really good first effort, like really good. Here's where subject matter expertise starts to be the shortcut. Someone who is a bona fide subject matter expert in sending RFPs will look at that and in seconds pull out the paragraphs that are wrong, find the sentences that are incorrect. If they read it through, it will become instantly obvious what has to go. What would have taken days or weeks in a normal process is now taking minutes or hours. That is the shortcut. That is the shortcut. That is a level of productivity but importantly, it's table stakes. Raja, everybody gets it, right? So people are going to do that better or worse. If your competitor does the same RFP, but the person who's the subject matter expert is not as expert as yours, they won't do as well. And so we're all going to perform according to our gifts, as we always have. We just have new tools. The mastery of these tools is the shortcut. When there are a couple other ways that you can shortcut. You can build in the current iteration of LLMs. And when I say current, I mean today. Because tomorrow we could have a very different discussion. And yesterday we would have had a different discussion because each morning something new and crazy happens in this space. There's this thing GPT-2 that came and went last week. No one quite knows what it was, if it was a hoax, if it was real, if it was just a repackaging of GPT-4, but it was like, you just don't know what's going on. Meta just came out with Meta.ai. Now just yesterday, OpenAI unleashed its memory tools across all of ChatGPT for Teams and all of their paid versions. It's like, wow, they talked about it in February, but it happened yesterday. Before yesterday, context windows forgot as they got longer, and you didn't have memory persistence across chats. Now you do. It's like that was yesterday and today. Completely different world. I would approach a prompt crafting workshop or a prompt engineering workshop very differently today, knowing that that particular feature and benefit is available now. It wasn't yesterday, and now it is today. So for today, talking about what we know now and the way that you interface with the tools that are out there now, the models that are out there now, there are three big buckets for shortcuts. One is productivity, as we just discussed. The other is what you just brought up, which is innovating workflow and process with the same intensity and with the same pace that the tech is being innovated. Here you've described for me beautifully, well, we used to do it this way, and now we do it this way. Completely different, innovating in the workflow and the process. And so let's look at every area across the marketing function and say what, where, and how can we innovate our workflow and process to take advantage of these new productivity tools. And I'm going to talk more deeply about that in a minute. The other kind of two buckets are talking to data directly. There are tools available now where if your data is in decent shape, and wow, is that a subjective term? How is your data in a structured database? Is it in a freeform database? Is it in people's desk drawers and printed material? Is it in PDF files on people's hard drives that should have been put in a Dropbox folder but never got there? Like, how is your data and what shape is it in? If your data is in pretty good shape, we can build tools now to talk to the data. Think about having a dashboard, for example, and you need to change the dashboard, or report, and you need the report changed. So what would you normally do? In a big corporation, you call the data office or whatever your equivalent is, and you say, hey, I need this dashboard changed or the report changed. They talk to a programmer, the programmer changes the report or changes the dashboard. They send it back for your approval. You kind of go, no, I really needed to do this instead. That could go iteratively for a long time until you get exactly the report or exactly the dashboard modifications that you want. But now you can build a little tool that, because LLMs write code so well, if your endpoints of your database are in decent shape, if your tables are responsibly named, I can build a chat client where a subject matter expert at Big Co can sit down and start talking to the data directly. Now imagine like your dashboard came to life, or the report comes to life, and you could say like, okay, what's the last day we can sell a full price widget in store 18 before we have to mark it down, transship it, or send it back to the manufacturer. You multiply that by a few thousand SKUs, that is an unbelievable day. Now, you can't ask a why question. You can't say, why did sales go up? Because why is not in the data. But you can ask all the what questions you want, right? And, you know, what were the sales comparisons between Q1 and Q2 year over year for the last 4 years? Like, you can ask those questions, and then you'll decide what insights to gather. So that's bucket 2. And then bucket 3, which is kind of low hanging fruit and really interesting right now, is new product. Like, what new ways can consumers interface with your data? Can you surface your data? What new experiences, what priceless experiences could you create if you were going to use the data and surface it differently? Because now you can, you have, in quotes, super automation. So I can change the way someone experiences this data. Right now, it's either in an app or a website, but are there other ways? Well, certainly there are. There are audio approaches to it. There are graphical approaches to it. There are musical approaches to it. There's a lot of different ways to interface with the data that a company might have. So that's the brave new world. Those 3 buckets, Roger: productivity, including workflow and process, talking to data, and new product. Those are the 3 shortcuts that are available today. The long cut is creating Yorko's first synthetic employee. That's going to take a minute. But all these little process enhancers, they're available now. You just have to want to do them, and they don't cost very much. They take time, which is expensive, but they don't cost. You're not going to be spending a lot of money to build them. You have to just evolve them.
So you brought up the topic of synthetic employee.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come back to it later. Can you just elaborate on that right away?
So I've been doing these workshops, day-long summits now, day-long workshops called Building Your Company's First Synthetic Employee, for all of my clients. And it serves a bunch of purposes I think you can appreciate. You know, there, at a company the size of MasterCard, there must be hundreds of various AI projects in process right now across the globe. There have to be. Every one of my big clients has just hundreds of projects going on. And it's like the late 90s, where you were starting to build websites and everything is like, there's a lot of redundancy. Everybody was building logins, everybody was building database connectors. Like, because you didn't have it, there was no standardized way to do anything. Everybody just built everything they needed. And this seems to be replicated now. Everybody's building everything they need across the enterprise. There's a lot of redundancy. So building your first synthetic employee, you know better than I do, the hallway handle, the power of the hallway handle. Hey, Raja, what are you working on? The synthetic employee project. Wow, that's cool. And you cross each other in the hall as you go. And so this acts as a North Star for everybody. And since everybody's working on some components, what we were able to do for our clients is build these repositories and interfaces and just portals, basically, that are the synthetic employee portal. And it's where all the projects for the whole enterprise can be thrown together and all be evaluated. And it gives everybody like pride of authorship. And the goal of this project is literally to determine, what would your first synthetic employee do? What will they know? Who will they report to? Who will they help? Where will they get their inputs? Where will they get their outputs? I'm anthropomorphizing the first synthetic employee. It is just it's not a person. When I do this, we literally put Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics on the wall, and it's not science fiction, Raja. It's a North Star for the day. It's like, folks, we're not gonna, we're gonna do no harm. Here we go. And the outcomes are unbelievable because we bring in legal, we bring in HR, we bring in tech across the enterprise and the business leaders, and we try to determine what it is we'd super automate. And if such an employee were to exist, how and what would its capability set be? And you instantly realize that each company is unique. Initialisms, acronyms, playbooks, culture, um, uh, availability of data, risk tolerance, regulatory, business licenses, global footprint. Like everybody's so different. The employee needs to know all of this, but once you get it all into like this AI tech stack, that's the underpinning of what will be whatever is going to be. You can't get to the next step without having all of this in a place that can be understood. I think one of the best ways to think about it, Raja, is when you do a Google search, when you see that box come up that has like the answer to your question, and it's like that, it's called winning the box, right? Like you type a question and somebody's website, not the website, but literally just the paragraph you need shows up in Google. When you're programming your first synthetic employee, you literally have to determine the questions people might ask and the answer inside the documents you have and weight them and score them as like you can't throw all your data into a big bucket and say figure it out, because there's way more nonsense in that data than there is sense. You know, when you look at we were talking about RFPs a few minutes ago. So if you look at the RFPs, they're very densely packed with very specific, but there's also a lot of stuff in there. It's not really going to help answer a question unless it's a question about the RFP, right? If it's according to the laws of the state of New York, okay, that's really important for the lawyers. It's important for the people signing the contract. It may have some impact on some of the questions, but it's not going to have a lot to do with the quantities that were ordered. It's not going to have a lot to do, right? I mean, it's going to have to do with the warranty stuff. So, you know, the models get confused because they have no context. And this is where people start to anthropomorphize in the wrong way. These tools have no context. They're just pattern matching. And now there's this emergent quality of reason. And something happened that kind of shook me up a couple of weeks ago. TK got up on, you know, at the Google conference, and he called everything generative AI, absolutely everything. Like he didn't make any delineation between neural networks or AI writ large or generative adversarial networks or diffusion networks or transformer networks. It's all Gen AI. And I've always been a little careful about that because Gen AI is such a promiscuous phrase, and it means whatever you want it to mean at this point, right? You know, it's deep fakes, it's this, copyright issues. It's like everybody's just throwing everything into that bucket. And then TK gets up on stage and does that. And from his position, that was really kind of impressive to me. And what I think I took away from that is and it was reinforced by a bunch of engineers I've been talking to the last 2 weeks. Big tech isn't thinking about Raja and Shelly's marketing problems. Big tech is thinking about building AGI, however they define it, artificial general intelligence. And that's their goal, and it's their only goal. They think getting there, that when these tools can reason and they can like make decisions for us, that they will have accomplished something great. I don't know if that's misguided or brilliant. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know if I'm ready to have decisions made that I don't have any control over. And I don't know that I'd want to live in a world where I had given myself to something that was making decisions that would impact my life that I didn't really understand. And I don't think a lot of people really understand what these tools are. And AGI, we certainly won't understand because we're not machines, and we don't think like machines. We're humans. So it's going to be interesting. I was surprised. Sam Altman's always been talking about it, but you take it with a bit of a grain of salt, because while he's talking about AGI, what they're doing is they're putting out GPT-4, ChatGPT, and DALL-E and Sora, you know, and I mean, so those are all component parts of them getting to what they're calling artificial general intelligence. It's loosely defined, right? It's, I guess the most common description is being able to do tasks and learn and do tasks the way a human can learn and do tasks that are, you know, cross-disciplinary. Doesn't scare me, but it doesn't help us as marketers in any way. That tool set, if it was fully finished, it would be another person in the room with super calculating capability sets, but you'd have to teach it what you wanted it to know. So all the stuff I'm talking about where you have to like get your act together to teach the model, you're still going to have to teach the model. The model now it may learn by just reading this stuff, but that feels farther away than I think a lot of people are saying it is.
So just two quick things. I just want to touch upon AGA and then get back to the synthetic employee bit for a second. That fascinates me endlessly, and I think there are tons of business opportunities as well. But on the AGA, as I understood, is basically the artificial general intelligence is more about having a level of consciousness, being a sentient kind of a thing, and it has also got judgment, etc. Or is it something which is not totally different?
No, for consciousness, Raja, we're going to have to go see metaphysicists and clergy, like, and philosophers. Consciousness is not something that I will even pretend to understand. I think, therefore I am. That's as far as I go. Descartes, Nietzsche, they're my guys. I mean, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. I'm not sure why I'm conscious. I don't know about consciousness, but what I do know is that I know what signs of intelligence are, right? Being able to understand a complex question, being able to uh, simulate and hold an idea in your head. I don't have to walk off the cliff. I understand if I walk off this cliff, I'm going to fall to the bottom. And obviously, both of our ancestors all the way back never did that. They were able to simulate because we're here. So they were able to pass on their genes. Plan. Intelligent beings can plan. Well, these tools can't really plan yet, but they can write a plan because they've seen copies of plans. They can pattern match a plan. Reason. Well, oddly, there is this emergent quality of reason in all large language models now. If you say to a large language model, solve this complex equation, it'll get it wrong. But if you say, teach me how to solve this complex equation, it will reason through the entirety of the problem. And at the end, there's like an over 90% chance it'll get it right. Now, in a tool like Meta AI, which is based on Llama 3, it's got a math component built in. So it already does math. I'm really talking about the large language models that weren't explicitly trained on math. So this emergent quality of reason is fascinating. And this is what they're trying to explore now. And when they talk about being able to reason, they're talking about being able to reason through real life problems like you and I reason through problems. That tools don't really do that now. They kind of simulate it. Now, the question you have for every metaphysicist and everybody who's thinking about AGI is, where's the line between simulating reason and being able to reason?
Intrinsically.
There's an old parable about the guy goes to his clergy person and says, look, I'm super angry, and now it's costing my whole business, it's costing me my marriage, it's costing me my children. I'm like, I just don't know why I'm so angry. And the clergy person says to the guy, look, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pretend all day tomorrow, no matter how hard it is. I want you to pretend that you're happy all day and that you're not angry no matter what. Just pretend. The guy says, but I am angry. Says, yeah, I know you're going to be angry. Just pretend you're not. And and the guy comes back the next day, how'd it go? So, well, a little bit. Obviously this goes on for a week or two and the world is great. So, like he was pretending, but when, what, how, like, where is the line between simulating reason and reasoning? Will we know? I don't know that we're going to know. And that's the part where this gets, out into another space. I don't think we need to go there to understand that. I think it's important to bringing it back to like the practical applications of these tools. I think it's important to understand we don't need to get anywhere near AGI to stack a bunch of models together and create some agentic tools. The idea now is every time we use like a chat GPT, we're giving it a task and it's giving us an answer. And we are the taskmasters and it is the slave to our tasks. But an agentic tool, an autonomous agent, we would tell it a goal. Hey, Raj and Shelly need you to do this. Go do it. And it would, go book us. We're going to Wimbledon. Book us tickets. We're going to throw a party, to honor so and so. Go book the space. Go get the caterer. Go get the AV set. Just go do it. Those tools exist now. All you got to do is rack them and stack them, and then let them go out and have free agency, and they will come back. Think about how many things are done that way now. Right? When you browse the web, you are not browsing the web. Everybody's confused. You've never browsed the web in your life. Only web browsers browse the web. You interact with a web browser that goes out and electronically talks to something else. So if we take you out of the equation and we just have the headless browser go out there and do its thing, it too can put a MasterCard number into any website and make the purchase.
Hopefully not.
Well, I'm saying it, but it can if it's authorized to do so. And so an agent authorized to go make purchases, to go finish and complete jobs, is well within this tool set that exists right now today, this second. And so this idea of what is an assistant and what kind of agentic tools are we to build, we don't need it to think for itself. I will give it the goal. I don't need it to choose the goal. That would be an AGI that has this sort of autonomous intelligence where it can learn and it can do and it can be, and I can have like real discussions. Okay, move all that out of the way. I need you to do something. I need to build a performance marketing campaign with these particular parameters. I need to do media mix modeling against this particular wide range of media. I want to mix my outdoor better with my online. I want to, there's this weird line in outdoor advertising between digital signage and video, and where do they mix? And let's see if we can get a better understanding of how that's impacting sales. Like, you could build agents to do that right now and not work that hard to do it. So when will we need full AGI? Whenever Sam Altman tells us we have it, or whatever TK tells us we have it. But for you and me, for a marketer, all we need to do is sit down and say, what are the tasks that would really help us if they were super automated? And what workflow and process could we augment or redesign or innovate that we could then super automate after we innovated the workflow and process? I wanted to go back to the creativity question because I bailed on you on that. And creativity needs to be broken up into two parts, because people always confuse creativity and production. There is creativity and execution. Hearing something in your head is where the creativity is. As you know, I've spent the first 40 years of my life writing music for TV full time. That's all I did. That was my profession. And people always ask, well, do you write at the piano? Do you write at the playing guitar? No. I wrote basically in the shower or on the couch, and I would write on the dining room table with a pen and music paper and my cat and a pencil sharpener, and a very good eraser. That's where I would do my writing. It happened here. That's the creativity. Execution, completely different. To execute means to realize what you have in your head and get it either on paper, on film, on video, on some recorded medium, whatever it is. Super automation will really amplify your ability to do that. So AI is a skills amplifier there. It's not a creativity amplifier. It is an executional production amplifier. If we back up and say how many things in the advertising and marketing world are execution based, resizing ads, topography, kerning, leading, the aesthetic of comparing one color graded image to another color graded image to ensure that we have, our color palette proper across the entirety of, that is purely objective executional stuff that was done by a deep bench in the art department, the music department, the video department. All of that's going to get automated. Is that creative work getting taken away? Yeah. You need to go to school for it, or at least go on the job training. You need a lot of specialized training and some aesthetic talent. That's all gone. But the creativity part, it's never going anywhere. Can it help? Oh, it can really help. It can really help. You can talk to GPT-4 right now, this minute, as a creative, and you can ask it some questions that will inspire you to do things differently. You can also ask it to mash stuff up that you can kind of hear in your head or see in your mind's eye, but you can't really get a, it's a misty kind of amorphous thing. It's like, I really want to see what Banksy would have done with Keith Haring at Picasso's house, if Monet was in the room. Like, it's the dumbest thing you'd ever say out loud, but it will mash that up for you. And whatever that is, it might give you an idea to pick up a paintbrush and go, yeah, okay, that one little section there, that's kind of what I had in mind. That's gold. I mean, that's gold when you're, so everybody that ever came to me as a music client would either give me some swipe and tell me not to get them sued, or they'd say, I love that John Williams thing in Star Wars. Like, I want something, don't get me sued. But I want this thing from, and then Randy Newman did this thing in The Natural. It was so good, but don't get me sued. And then this Taylor Swift thing is unbelievable, but don't get me sued. Like they would do the mashup for you. They would tell you the things they like. That's how people communicate. And if you communicate with a large language model the same way, it gives you feedback, sometimes good, sometimes nonsense, which is where your subject matter expertise is the most important part of the whole equation. If you don't know what you're looking at, you don't know what you're looking at. And if you do, you're ahead of the curve.
Beautiful. Actually, this is, on one hand, it is truly awe-inspiring. And on the other hand, I think it is probably the most exciting time for us to be here and discover the kind of transformation and the kind of possibilities. Absolutely incredible. But it could also be scaring the hell out of a lot of people too. Right now, for example, I was speaking with one of the relatively smaller agencies who I met at one of the events. And they were saying that they have reduced the number of writers that they had before to something like by almost 80%. So a lot of people are scared that they'll lose the jobs. And as it is, I keep saying that the CMO job and the marketing function itself is a little bit of an existential crisis for a different set of reasons, nothing to do with technology. A lot of blue chip companies have been eliminating the roles of CMOs. These are the companies which are now, like Starbucks recently has done it. Johnson & Johnson has done it. Kraft has done it. But the reasons are very different, and we'll not touch upon that at this point in time. But that, coupled with what you have mentioned about creating these synthetic humans, do you think we can create a synthetic CMO? If that's the case, I would love to be in that business with you.
I think it's, if you look at the marketing organization of a global CMO, and I think you've done that more than once, I bet we could look at those functions and break them up between key decision-making points in the organization and executional points in the organization. Where there are executional points in the organization, they can be automated. And so the organization can be streamlined. Leadership now is more important than it's ever been. Cultural leadership is more important than it's ever been, because when you teach somebody to do something in 3 hours that used to take 30 days, they don't really want to move on to the next project without getting paid. I do a newsletter every day, and I do a thought leadership piece on Sundays. And my practice since 1996 has been get up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, close the door at about 6:30 in the morning, and emerge at 7:30 with the day's rant. We call it a rant here at the Palmer Group. And then on Saturday mornings, same, except 3 hours, when I write call it 800 to 1,300 word thought leadership piece that I put out on Sunday. Anyway, there's a process after I finish it that goes to proofreaders and what have you. With the advent of Da Vinci 3, which is the precursor to GPT 3.5, so this goes back over 2 years now. As soon as we got that API, my time to finish in the morning went from 45 minutes to about 15 in total. So that's a half hour a day, 5 days a week. That's 2.5 hours back every week of my life now. And my 3 hours on Saturday went down to about 45 minutes.
Wow.
So that's another roughly 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Raja, I'm getting 5 hours a day back. 5 hours, 52 weeks a year. And basically that's on one task. I'm getting a full month of productivity that I can measure. At my pay scale, that's a pretty hefty, it's a pretty hefty number. Now, that's the one task. I have this stuff open on my desk all day long. It's for every single task I use. So if you looked at that across your marketing organization and said, where could I take my best people and take their time and crush it down like this? And then as a leader, how would I fiscally incentivize them, psychologically and socially incentivize them to do that much more work? Because, you're literally doing the work of 1.5 people if I just hook you up with just basic tools. But if I start helping you build tools for your part of the org, So this is going to be a leadership challenge we've never seen before. And I have to tell you, in our practice, in our consulting practice around the country with very big companies, we have two nicknames for the group that's in the middle here: the middle management mafia and the deep state. And I will tell you, and I will tell you that the middle management mafia absolutely hates these tools. Nobody wants to work more for less. Nobody wants to do more. And everyone's afraid that if they demonstrate they can do more, they'll either be burdened with it because no one is leading them to believe otherwise. And so I turn it back around to all of my stakeholders and to all of the senior leaders that I deal with every day. It's like, look, we're in a new place. It's a new world, and new leadership and new cultural understanding and a new contract, social contract, psychological contract, and business contract needs to be made with the workforce. This is an augmented workforce. We now have AI coworkers. They're capable of things humans are not. They will do things humans cannot do, or that humans can do at a speed humans cannot match. And so the sewing machine's pretty good too. The cotton gin was pretty good too. Automobiles are pretty good too. Like, we've had advances in technology and we've lived through it before. We'll live through this, but only if we lead through it. And that's where people like you, Raja, are leading the way. You know, when I look at the organization you put together, it's very clear that, you know, I don't think the role of the CMO becomes an AI CMO. I think the executable functions will be automated. And I think we'll stop talking about the letters AI and we'll start talking about what we can and cannot automate and componentize. And then we will unleash the true creative force inside of the organizations that we've created. Because if you think about the history of humanity, to take you back to the consciousness question that you asked before, the difference between human beings and every other species on Earth is our ability to organize. Put 1,000 leopards on Wall Street, you don't get Wall Street. You'd have all the fighting, but you wouldn't have the financial, organization. Human beings organize, and the best organizations on Earth are the most sustained and the most profitable. And so building an organization is a leadership function. It's not a tech function. And now you have to lead machines and people together. We always did in our lifetimes. We always led machines.
Yeah.
But the machines didn't think. So now they think a little. Okay, I got a thinking machine. It's a challenge. You're up for the challenge, but this is still a leadership opportunity. It's not even a challenge. It's just a leadership opportunity. You got to jump on it. And once I think it's clear how to lead through this, I think we're going to be in a much better place.
Which is brilliant. The way you mention it, leading through it as opposed to living through it. I think that's quite a nugget I'm going to borrow and use somewhere, with your permission. But a couple of things I wanted to also ask you. One is, as an individual marketer, and there are, we have got hopefully about 130,000 people who watch this on a monthly basis. For the benefit of those people, I just want you to state a couple of things. One is, if they want to learn about AI in a simple fashion, not with too much of mumbo jumbo or jargon, etc., because some of marketers tend to be more right-brained than left-brained. And anything, the moment you talk of technological jargon and some specific terms and all, they turn off and then they go. In a simplified fashion, etc., you have done already that, and that's the reason why I'm plugging this for you, which is, how would they educate themselves in a way that they can really start applying things, get their heads around first, and then figure out what is appropriate?
Well,
just state what you're offering actually at this point in time.
The shameless plug is go to shellypalmer.com/AI. And there you will find resources. We have a AI for brand marketers course there. If you're a marketer, AI for brand marketers, AI for generative AI for execs, that course is there. But and you should take it, because it'll only take you an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you'll learn an awful lot about how everything works. And it's free, which is also very nice. But I would say, if I was going to start today, if I had been toying with this and playing with it at work, but not really doing it myself, I would beg you to go to, and I have no financial relationship with OpenAI at all, but I would beg you to go to OpenAI and buy a subscription to ChatGPT for Teams, their commercial product. And I'd leave it open on your desk all day long. If it has to be on your personal computer or your personal tablet, then that's what it is. I would ask it every question, and I would also tell you to ask it to teach you how to use it. The craziest stuff. Use it as opposition. Put a proposal into it and then say, what are my clients likely to object to other than price? And have a Socratic debate with the model. Like every possible thing you can think of, you want to ask it a question about history, something you know deeply about. Take a problem you want to solve and go solve it with the model. Like have a conversation with the model as if it were an intern or a peer or an expert. You will learn more about how this works and what it can and cannot do by doing than any other way. There's absolutely no substitute for just getting there with your fingers and rolling up your sleeves and just type and listen, go back and forth. Do the same thing with video, do the same thing with music. Like all these models exist. They're mostly free or a few dollars a month. And this is an investment you're making in your future. So if you have to spend a few dollars a month for Perplexity or a few dollars a month for one of the other models or Midjourney, yeah, do it. It doesn't have to be forever. You don't have to like burden yourself financially, but you owe it to yourself to just dig in and dig in hard. And look, we have a bunch of resources. Prompt crafting is something you can learn very quickly. There are a million videos on YouTube, not just by me, by everybody. Um, do it. You have to do it, and you have to do it all the time. You can't just like, oh, I played with it. If you are willing to say, oh yeah, I played with it, it's not like, then you haven't done what I need you to do. I need you to literally have it open all day long and ask it every question. And if your boss doesn't let you do it, fine, bring your laptop. And oh, the last thing is, do not worry about it stealing your data. People are always worried about that. If you're using a name brand model, if you're using Copilot, if you're using Chat GPT, if you're using Claude from Anthropic, if you're using Gemini from Google, I am promising you right now, and you can hold me to it, A, you're indemnified, and B, they're not going to touch your data. They just aren't. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. The models do not learn. They don't learn from you. You have to take the data and then you have to train the model, which means someone has to consciously take your data out of your chat window, decide that it's valuable, and then decide to train the model next time they run a training set on the model, decide to train or augment the model. It's not what's happening. You can easily put your data into these windows. These windows forget over time because it's actually a bug, not a feature. So that you don't have to worry about. If your company's super sensitive, then don't use company data, use your own. But no matter what you do, the only way to get good at this, at anything, and at this specifically, is to practice. So practice every day. Go home and do something, recipes, and whatever's important to you. The more you do, the more you interact with these tools with stuff you deeply know and understand, the better you will understand what they can, and much more importantly, what they cannot do.
And do you have any references, just like you have given for interacting on the video side or the music side, Shelly?
So the two Suno, Suno is the big music site that will stop you. And it sat me back in my chair. This is the future of music if I've ever seen it. If you haven't gone to Suno, you should do it. As I have no financial interest in that company either, but it is mind blowing. And then when in the next few months, Sora, Sora, the video product from OpenAI comes out, it will blow your mind. There are a few others coming. Pika is Runway ML. There's a few other videos. And you look, as marketers, you have to be aware of Amazon ads, and you have to be aware of the Facebook Meta product, Advantage Plus shopping. Those are the practical applications of video sizing, a little bit of LLM augmentation and experimentation with copy. Like all that's in its very nascent stages. What we didn't get a chance to, because we're out, like, we don't have the time to deal with it. We didn't really get a chance to talk about writing marketing copy. You mentioned that some of the ad agencies, the little ones, are sad because they're laying off copywriters. Copywriters are going to be the first ones to go, mostly because while it's a subjective and creative art, the executional part of that is iteration against very specific attributes. You're trying to match a persona to your writing style, and the computers are better than that at that than people are. And so there isn't a human function there. The humans were inadequate to the task. It was a testable hypothesis that got tested, came back, got evaluated. Here, you write the eval first, you set the KPI or the OKR, and you say go, and it keeps iterating until it gets it right. And there, the probabilistic nature of the writing, as opposed to the deterministic nature of human writing, when you're writing, you're going to write the same thing and slightly change it. Here, it's just going to try again in a different framework, and it's going to measure its results in an immediate way. So yeah, copywriting is going to be one of the things that gets hurt first. Production music is going to get hurt. Interstitial video. You're never going to go shoot a Westcam shot or a drone shot of the shoreline again. You're just not going to do it. You don't need to. And so does that mean your whole movie is getting made by AI? No, but my entire second unit budget may go to AI, or maybe they'll put it back into the main unit production. Okay, you know what? I'm going to shoot my money shot 3 more times because it's done by AI. So that's where this is going. These little incremental steps, which I think are going to piss everybody off a lot and change a lot of cultures and change. When you think about that on a film set, Raja, that goes all the way down to craft services, down to tent and trunk rental. Porta potty guy is like, you need less of everything if you're going to use. Just the trickle down is unbelievable. So the industry is going to get shaken to its core. Not the first time.
Not the first time, indeed. But hopefully this will all really result in, one point which struck me quite a lot when the way you said, it is not going to substitute leadership. It's not going to substitute creativity in a real sense. And on the one hand, from a capabilities point of view and automation and all this, it will democratize the competition quite significantly. And what really differentiates your company versus others is the creativity, the innovation, the leadership. And I think that's a golden moment as far as marketers are concerned. And the real good ones, they can actually outshine their competition in a big way, which is fantastic. And you talked about today is different than yesterday is different than tomorrow, at the pace at which things are happening. Having said that, what is your very long-term future, which is 2024, look like for you?
I think the world will change when Apple creates assistants that are really assistant and that can access our PHI and our PII, our regulated financial data and our medical data, because I'm not going to put that into anything, nor am I going to allow that to go into something I don't feel confident with. But Tim Cook and Apple have demonstrated over and over again that privacy is the hallmark of what they do. They're going to run large language models in the phone. They're slow playing this. They could have come out with this at any time, but they're not in a hurry. They're going to get it right. I hope they are. And when I have the ability to interface with my personal data, my financial and health data in the context of a large language model that is aware of my location and the things I'm doing during the day. I mean, all the things my Apple Watch and my iPhone know about me, coupled with a large language model running locally that is not available to anyone, but knows, hey, I made an appointment with Raja to talk to him next week to thank him. And do you yes or no? Or it actually knows that I would not even need to approve that if your schedule allowed it, I would just do it. And it knows that from repetition, like that kind of assistance. That'll change us the way Waze changed the world of maps.
Yes.
Like, we had a map and now we have wayfinding tools. And it's like, I had a phone with a calendar and a schedule that was different than a to-do list. And then my doctor's appointments. And then I had all these things separate. And all of a sudden they're going to come together in some comprehensive way that's private to me, that I trust. That sociological change, which is the next change, that changes everything. It literally changes everything, and for the good and for the very, very bad, because it will bifurcate the AI haves and the AI have-nots in a way that the techno-haves and the techno-have-nots have demonstrated already, but it's nowhere near as extreme as the AI haves and the AI have-nots. And Raja, my long-term future, not to leave us on a terrible note, Sam and Satya said they're going to build Stargate. This is going to be $100 billion with a B dollar supercomputer that does AI. That's their plan. It's going to be online by 2028, I think, is the date they've chosen. Elon Musk has proven that you can have incredible connectivity from space, and that's, Starlink is the way you get connectivity. That means there's no way in the world we're not going to build some of these data centers in space. We are. They're going to be in orbit. That's going to solve the cooling and the power problem. I'm going to have solar power, and I'm going to have space at minus 275 degrees as cooling. And all of a sudden, I'm going to have nation states and nations. I'm going to have China building their $100 billion computer. Microsoft and OpenAI will build theirs, but the government of the United States is going to nationalize it if it isn't already. EU will build theirs. India will build theirs. Russia will build theirs. All of a sudden, we're going to have a world with weaponized, super intelligent, $100 billion supercomputers. That's all by the end of this decade, planned. Like you could set your watch. It's going to happen. The only thing that'll stop that is lack of chips or lack of power. And any way you look at that, that scares the living daylights out of me. I can't even imagine what that world looks like. I'm having trouble imagining what this world's going to look like when it just gets to my phone. But when the data elite and the AI elite have that level of compute, and they control my access to that level of compute, your access to that level of compute, that makes two classes of individuals. It really does. It's in a different way than we've ever had. Look, Facebook's data elite, Google's data elite, but they're controllable by governments. This won't be controllable.
Got it. But to leave the meeting on a talk on a positive note, one thing coming from MasterCard, obviously, I always ask every one of my guests, what's priceless to you, Shelly?
What's priceless to me?
Yep.
Our friendship, Raja, flat out. That's priceless.
Right, God.
It is. I'm not gonna lie. No, our friendship is priceless to me. And
thank you.
That's on top of my thankful list for today. Because thank you for allowing me to just talk about the things I'm interested in. It's
always so inspiring at so many levels, Shelly. And like I said, over the last few years that I have known you, last 2 decades almost, I think it's been quite a learning journey for me, and I really hold you in the highest of regard and always look to you to learn. And thank you very much. And what you're doing for the entire community to educate them, to teach. And of course, you teach at the university as well. NYU, right?
No, I'm at Syracuse in the Newhouse School. Professor of Advanced Media in Residence at the SI Newhouse School of Public Communications.
So you're really a professor as well, in addition to being everything else, which is amazing and extraordinary. So thank you very much. Really, really very thought-provoking, and it had so many good nuggets. Thank you very much. And for the audience, folks, hope you really enjoyed it. Do let me know what your feedback is and what topics you want me to cover in future, and who would you want me to bring back. And if you say that Shelly has to come back again, please let me know, and I'll go and request him. And hopefully he will oblige at some point in time. But again, thank you very much, everyone. Take care. And Shelly, thank you so very much.
All the best.
Take care. Thank you.